On our 10th anniversary, my wife and her friends decided to prank me. They set up a fake award dinner and invited her ex-lover to present a trophy, Most Patient Husband. He hugged her a little too long while everyone laughed. My kids filmed it for TikTok. I just smiled. When the lights went out, the screen behind them lit up with transfer notices. Her company, her ex's startup, her mother's mortgage, all funded by me, all now frozen. She stopped laughing first. I've learned that humiliation has a specific texture. It's not hot, like anger, or cold, like fear. It's something in between, a numbness that starts in your chest and spreads outward until your fingers feel like they belong to someone else. Until you're watching yourself from somewhere near the ceiling, wondering how you got here and wondering if anyone else can see that you've already left your body. That's how I felt on my 10th wedding anniversary, standing in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel, watching my wife laugh as her ex-boyfriend's hands lingered too long on her waist. The room was perfect. Too perfect. Someone, probably Claire, my wife, had hired a decorator who understood the language of expensive occasions. White roses cascaded from crystal vases on every table. String lights draped the ceiling like captured stars. A photographer moved through the crowd with professional invisibility and capturing moments that would later be curated into the mythology of our life together. Our friends and family filled the space with the kind of laughter that sounds like champagne being poured. Light, effervescent, celebratory. My mother-in-law, Diane, held court at the head table in a dress that probably cost more than my first car. My own parents sat near the back, looking vaguely uncomfortable, the way they always did at Claire's events, like immigrants who'd learned the language but never quite mastered the accent. My children, Sophia, 8, and Marcus, 6, darted between tables with their tablets raised, documenting everything for whatever social media platform they'd discovered that week. I'd tried to limit their screen time once. Claire had laughed and asked if I wanted them to be social outcasts. I'd dropped it. I'd dropped a lot of things. The banner above the stage read, "Celebrating 10 years of Claire and James." I remember thinking that the order of names was telling. Claire always came first. In conversation, in consideration, in the architecture of our life together. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got here, and you need to understand the specific variety of love that curdles so slowly you don't notice until you're drinking spoiled milk and calling it a marriage. Claire and I met in college. She was a junior when I was a senior, and she had the kind of beauty that made smart men stupid. Not just physical beauty, though she had that. Dark hair that caught light like water, green eyes that could shift from warm to calculating in the space of a heartbeat. No, Claire had the kind of beauty that came from absolute certainty. She knew what she wanted, she knew how to get it, and, for reasons I still don't entirely understand, she decided she wanted me. I was flattered. Of course I was. I was a computer science major, with an internship lined up at a mid-tier tech company. I wore the same 3 button-down shirts in rotation. I lived on ramen and ambition. Claire was social chair of her sorority, already networking her way toward a career in marketing, already building the kind of connections that would later seem both impressive and slightly predatory. "You're different," she told me on our 3rd date, her fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass. "You're stable, real. Not like these fraternity idiots who think a trust fund is a personality trait." I should have heard the subtext. Should have understood that stable was another word for useful. But I was 22 and in love with the idea that someone like Claire could choose someone like me. We got married 3 years later. Small wedding, her idea. She said she wanted intimate, but I think she just wanted inexpensive. I was working as a software developer by then, making decent money, but nothing spectacular. Claire was climbing the ranks at a boutique marketing firm, the kind that charged 5 figures to tell companies their logos should be more mindful. Those first years were good. Or maybe they weren't, and I've just revised the past until it looks like happiness. We bought a small house in the suburbs, had Sophia. Tried to figure out how to be parents while also being partners. Failed at both more often than we succeeded, but isn't that what everyone does? I switched jobs twice in those early years, each time negotiating for better pay, better benefits, better work-life balance. Claire encouraged it. "You're worth more than they're paying you," she'd say. And I'd feel seen, valued, like I was building something that mattered. What I didn't realize, what I was carefully trained not to realize, was that I was building something for someone else. The first time I met Drew Morrison, he was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment and a smile that suggested he knew it. This was 6 years ago at Claire's company holiday party. She had been promoted to senior marketing director, and the celebration had the energy of people trying very hard to enjoy mandatory fun. James! Claire's voice had that particular brightness she reserved for when she was performing our marriage. Come meet Drew. He's the new regional VP. Drew, this is my husband, James. Drew's handshake was firm, professional, the kind of handshake you learn in seminars about executive presence. Great to meet you, man. Claire talks about you all the time. Good things, I hope. The best. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. She says you're the reason she can focus on her career. Not every guy is secure enough to be the stable foundation, you know? There it was again. Stable. Like I was a piece of furniture. Like my function was to not move while everyone else danced. Claire touched Drew's arm, just briefly, just enough. Drew's being modest. He's completely revolutionizing our approach to digital engagement. They talked shop while I held Claire's drink and tried to look interested. I was good at looking interested. I'd had a lot of practice. Over the next 2 years, Drew's name appeared in our conversations with increasing frequency. Drew thinks we should pivot to influencer partnerships. Drew suggested this amazing restaurant. Drew's wife just doesn't understand the hours required at this level. That last one should have been a warning sign, should have been a siren. But I was busy. Work had gotten more demanding after I'd taken a position at a fintech startup as their senior engineer. Sophia had started school. Marcus was still in diapers. Life was a series of handoffs and scheduling conflicts and hurried conversations over cold leftovers. And Claire was thriving. That's what I told myself. She was thriving. And wasn't that what a good husband wanted? For his wife to thrive? Drew's startup launched 18 months ago. Some kind of social media analytics platform with a name that sounded like it was generated by an AI having a stroke. Claire came home electric with excitement. Drew wants me to join him, she said, pacing our kitchen with a glass of wine that sloshed dangerously close to the rim. As a founding partner. James, this could be huge. This could be everything I've been working toward. What about your job? I asked. You just made director. That's exactly the point. I've hit the ceiling there. But with Drew, I could have equity, real ownership. We could finally have the kind of financial security we've always talked about. We hadn't talked about that. Or rather, Claire had talked about it while I nodded and tried to figure out where the next tuition payment was coming from. What kind of investment are we talking about? I asked. She named a figure that made my stomach drop. It was money we had. Barely. I'd been saving aggressively, parking money in various accounts, building the kind of safety net you build when you grew up watching your parents lose everything in the 2008 crash. That's our emergency fund, I said carefully. That's our kids' education money. It's our future, James. Our real future, not just treading water. She set down her wine glass and took my hands. Her eyes were bright with something that looked like desperation. I need you to believe in me. Just once, I need you to take a risk with me. The thing about emotional manipulation is that it works best when it's wrapped in just enough truth to make you question yourself. Was I risk-averse? Yes. Did I sometimes play it too safe? Probably. Was Claire asking me to trust her, or was she asking me to be complicit in something I couldn't yet name? I said yes. Of course I said yes. Because I was stable, because I was the foundation, because that's what good husbands do. The money disappeared into Drew's startup like water into sand. Claire became a different person, or maybe she became more herself. She worked 18-hour days, came home smelling like expensive restaurants and someone else's cologne, stopped asking about my day, stopped asking about the kids' days, stopped asking. I handled it. That's what I told myself. I handled the morning routines and the homework and the bedtime stories. I handled the grocery shopping and the house repairs and the scheduling of dentist appointments. I handled everything while Claire handled her startup. 6 months after she invested, Drew and Claire launched some kind of viral marketing campaign that got written up in TechCrunch, and the company's valuation tripled overnight. Claire came home with champagne and ambition in her eyes. We did it, she said, and I noticed she didn't say I. She said we, her and Drew. The royal we of business partners who finish each other's sentences and share inside jokes and stay late at the office for reasons that probably don't have anything to do with work. I asked her once, about a year ago, if something was going on between her and Drew. She laughed. Actually laughed. James, Drew is my business partner. We're building something. I'm sorry if that makes you insecure, but I can't live my life managing your feelings. And just like that, I was the problem. Not her late nights, not her emotional absence, not the way she looked at her phone like it contained secrets she had no intention of sharing. Me. My insecurity. My inability to celebrate her success. I stopped asking. Added it to the list of things I'd learned to live with. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. You came here for the anniversary party. For the moment, everything changed. Let me give that to you. The lights were low and the music was soft, and Claire stood at the microphone looking like someone who'd spent 2 hours with a professional stylist, which she had. I'd seen the charge on our credit card statement. Thank you all so much for being here, she said, and the room quieted to hear her. 10 years ago, I married this man. She gestured to me, and I raised my hand in a half wave that felt immediately awkward. And I thought I knew what love was. I thought love was flowers and romance and grand gestures. She paused, smiled. The photographer moved closer. But real love, enduring love, is so much more than that. It's patience, it's stability. It's someone who shows up day after day, even when it's boring, even when it's hard. Someone who holds down the fort while you chase your dreams. The fort, like I was a soldier in someone else's war. Like my dreams had been discharged for the good of the unit. So tonight, I want to celebrate James, my patient, steady, absolutely unshakable husband, the man who makes everything possible. Applause rippled through the room. My mother was crying. Marcus was filming on his tablet, the screen casting a blue glow on his young face. Claire beckoned, and Drew Morrison walked out from behind the stage. He was carrying a trophy. I felt something in my chest, not quite surprise, not quite dread, something colder, more knowing. Drew and I wanted to do something special, Claire said, and her hand found his arm again, that same casual intimacy I'd been watching for 2 years. So we had this made. The trophy was gold-plated and absurd, a little statue of a man holding a briefcase, standing very still while the world moved around him. The plaque read, "Most Patient Husband." The room erupted in laughter. Good-natured, affectionate. The kind of laughter that says, "We're all in on the joke." Drew brought the trophy to me. His smile was wide, and his eyes were empty, and his hug for Claire lasted 3 seconds too long. I counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. His hand on the small of her back, her laugh against his shoulder, the cameras flashed. Marcus held up his tablet, capturing everything for whatever digital permanence means to an 8-year-old. Sophia was giggling with Claire's sister's kids, all of them pointing at me, at the trophy, at the joke I'd become. I smiled, wide, genuine-looking. I'd practiced this smile for years, the smile that says everything is fine, the smile that makes uncomfortable people comfortable, the smile that costs nothing and maintains everything. Drew handed me the trophy. "Speech!" Someone shouted. Maybe my brother. Maybe one of Claire's friends. It didn't matter. I stood there, feeling the weight of gold-plated mockery in my hands, and I thought about all the things I could say. I could tell them about the 3 separate bank accounts I'd opened in the last 18 months, carefully routing portions of my income into places Claire had stopped checking years ago. I could tell them about the calls I'd been having with lawyers, with financial advisors, with the kind of people you talk to when you're planning an exit strategy from your own life. I could tell them that Drew's startup was financed not just by Claire's initial investment, but by a series of loans I'd personally guaranteed. Loans that had very specific terms about repayment and default. Loans that gave me, as the patient husband, the stable foundation, a remarkable amount of leverage over Drew's company. I could tell them that my mother-in-law's mortgage, the one she'd refinanced last year to pay for that kitchen renovation she couldn't afford, had been bought by a financial firm I happened to own through a series of shell companies so complex that even my accountant needed a flowchart. I could tell them that Claire's company, not Drew's startup, but her old employer, The boutique marketing firm where she'd spent 10 years climbing the ladder had recently been acquired by a tech conglomerate. A tech conglomerate where I happened to know several key decision makers. A tech conglomerate that had hired me as a consultant specifically because I understood the intersection of technology and marketing. A tech conglomerate that now had the power to restructure, to downsize, to eliminate positions that might seem redundant in the wake of an acquisition. I could tell them all of this. Instead, I said, "Thank you. This means everything." And I meant it, just not the way they thought. Let me take you back. Not all the way. We don't have time for my entire origin story. And besides, some wounds are boring in their universality. But you need to understand the specific variety of invisibility I perfected over 10 years of marriage. It started small, it always does. Claire would mention a business dinner, and I'd rearrange my evening to handle bedtime. She'd book a weekend conference, and I'd take the kids to my parents' house, keeping them entertained while she networked. She'd forget to pick up groceries, and I'd swing by the store on my way home from work, somehow managing to shop while on a conference call. Sophia tugging on my jacket asking for the cereal with the cartoon tiger. "You're so good at this," Claire would say, and I'd feel a warm glow of competence, of value, of being seen. What I didn't realize was that good at this was another way of saying convenient, that I was being trained, slowly and methodically, to handle everything that didn't directly contribute to Claire's ambitions. I became a household appliance, high-functioning, mostly quiet, occasionally requiring maintenance, but generally reliable. The sex tapered off first. Not all at once, that would have been noticeable, but gradually the space between intimate moments grew longer. Once a week became twice a month, became "I'm just so tired," became "Can we talk about this later?" became silence. I told myself it was normal. Everyone in long-term relationships goes through dry spells. Everyone struggles to maintain passion while juggling careers and children and the slow entropy of domestic life. But it wasn't just the sex. It was the small touches, the casual intimacy, the way Claire used to reach for my hand in the car, or lean against me while we watched television, or kiss my forehead when she passed behind my chair. All of that evaporated like morning dew, and I kept waiting for it to come back, not understanding that dew doesn't come back. It dries. It's gone. You get new dew the next morning, or you don't. We didn't. The really insidious part of being taken for granted is that you become complicit in your own erasure. You start to edit yourself, to minimize, to preemptively handle problems so that no one else has to be bothered by your needs. I stopped talking about my work. Claire's eyes would glaze over whenever I mentioned code architecture or deployment strategies, so I learned to just say fine when she asked about my day, which she did occasionally in the way you ask a neighbor about their renovations. Polite interest masking profound indifference. I stopped suggesting date nights. The last 3 I'd planned had been canceled because something came up at Claire's startup. The 4th time, I'd made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner, and she'd looked at me like I'd suggested something vaguely pathetic. "I can't just drop everything because you're feeling nostalgic," she'd said. "Some of us have actual obligations." Actual obligations, as opposed to my fake ones, like raising our children, like maintaining our home, like generating the income that paid for her business ventures. I canceled the reservation, added it to the list of things we didn't talk about. But I wasn't just disappearing. I was also building something. Because here's what no one tells you about being underestimated. It's the perfect camouflage for strategic planning. My career had progressed significantly since those early days as a mid-level developer. I'd moved into fintech, and then into blockchain infrastructure, and then into the kind of work that sits at the intersection of technology, finance, and power. The kind of work that pays extremely well if you're willing to be invisible. And I was very willing. While Claire tracked every dollar of our money, by which she meant the money I earned that went into our joint account, she'd long since stopped paying attention to the specifics of my compensation package. She knew my base salary. She didn't know about the consulting fees, the advisory roles, the equity stakes in companies that were still private, but wouldn't be for long. She didn't know because she didn't ask. Because I'd become so good at being the stable foundation that she'd stopped checking if the foundation had aspirations of its own. I'd been careful, methodical. I'd set up trusts, created LLCs, invested in rental properties through corporations that looked nothing like me on paper. I'd built a financial fortress so complex that even if Claire thought to look for it, which she wouldn't, she'd need a team of forensic accountants and several months to unravel it. This wasn't about greed. It was about options, about having the resources to walk away if I ever found the courage to leave, about ensuring that if our marriage ended, I wouldn't be destroyed by the kind of financial warfare I'd seen other men endure in divorce proceedings. I told myself I was being practical, prepared, that every man should have a contingency plan, a life raft hidden away for emergencies. But I was also angry. I can admit that now. I was angry in the specific way that patient people get angry, slowly, thoroughly, with the kind of resentment that calcifies into something harder than rage, something colder, something more permanent. The anniversary party had been Claire's idea, of course. She'd insisted on something big to celebrate 10 years, something that would be appropriate for social media, something that would show her network, her carefully curated audience of business contacts and aspirational friends, that she had it all. The thriving startup, the picture-perfect family, the husband who knew his place. I'd written the check for the venue, for the caterer, for the photographer and the decorator, and the open bar that would ensure everyone left with warm feelings and favorable impressions. "You're so generous," Claire had said when I didn't blink at the cost. Some men would complain about spending this much on a party. Some men, the implication being that I was better than those men, evolved, secure, too enlightened to be bothered by the fact that we were spending the equivalent of a semester's college tuition on a single night of performance art. But I'd smiled and signed the check and started planning something else entirely. The Monday after we booked the venue, I'd called a meeting with my business manager, David Chen. David was the kind of lawyer who made other lawyers nervous, quiet, methodical, and absolutely ruthless when protecting his clients' interests. I'd been working with him for 3 years, building the infrastructure for what I'd started calling, in my own mind, the contingency. "I need a comprehensive audit," I told him. "Every financial connection between me and my wife, her business partner, and her mother." David didn't ask why. That's what I paid him for, solutions, not judgment. It took him 2 weeks to compile the report, and when he presented it to me in his downtown office, I felt something shift in my chest. Not quite hope, not quite vindication, something harder. "Your wife's company is leveraged significantly," David said, spreading documents across his desk. "The initial investment you funded has grown, but it's mostly on paper. The actual cash flow is marginal. They're burning through capital on overhead and marketing, betting on an acquisition or a massive user growth spike that hasn't materialized. What happens if their funding dries up? They'd need to seek additional investment or start making significant cuts. The loans you guaranteed give you leverage. If you wanted to call them, I don't want to destroy the company," I said. "Not yet. What else?" David flipped to another page. "Your mother-in-law's mortgage. The refinance she did last year was with a company called Summit Financial Solutions. Let me guess. One of your holdings. You bought the debt 6 months ago through a subsidiary." I'd actually forgotten about that one. I'd been acquiring distressed mortgages as investments, and when Diane's loan came across my desk, she'd been behind on payments, something Claire never mentioned. I'd purchased it through one of my LLCs. Not out of malice, just business, just building a portfolio. But now, sitting in David's office, I saw it differently. Saw the pattern I'd been weaving without fully conscious intent. "What about Claire's old company?" I asked. "The marketing firm." David smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "You're full of surprises. You own 15% of their parent company through various holdings. And given the restructuring talks they've been having, I could have influence over staffing decisions. Considerable influence." I sat back in my chair, feeling the weight of it. The architecture I'd built. The power I'd accumulated while pretending to have none. "I need you to prepare documents," I said. "Notifications, formal letters, everything legal and above board, but timed for maximum impact. Can you do that?" "What's the timeline?" "Our anniversary party, May 15th. David raised an eyebrow. "That's theatrical. She likes theater." The next few months were a strange kind of performance. I played my role perfectly, the patient husband, the stable foundation, the man who smiled at his own obsolescence. I took the kids to soccer practice while Claire worked late with Drew. I handled the house repairs when the water heater failed. I remembered everyone's birthdays and scheduled the appointments and kept the household running with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. And I planned. I met with David weekly. We refined the strategy, made sure every step was legal, defensible, the kind of maneuver that would stand up to scrutiny, not because it was kind, but because it was technically correct. The kind of revenge that wears a suit and carries a briefcase and speaks the language of contracts and consequences. I wasn't trying to destroy Claire. I want to be clear about that. I was trying to be seen, to force a moment of recognition, to make her understand that the foundation she'd been standing on wasn't bedrock. It was a construction, my construction. And constructions can be deconstructed. Or maybe I was just angry. Maybe I was tired of being convenient. Maybe I wanted just once to be the one who walked away while everyone else scrambled to adjust. The truth is probably some complicated mixture of all of it. Motivation is never clean, never simple, especially when you've spent 10 years learning to swallow your own voice. 2 weeks before the anniversary party, Claire came home electric with excitement. She practically vibrated with it, her whole body thrumming like a tuning fork. "Drew's taking the company public," she said, pouring herself wine with shaking hands. "IPO, early next year. James, do you understand what this means?" "That's great," I said. I was making dinner, pasta with the sauce Sophia liked, cutting vegetables into shapes Marcus would actually eat. "Great? It's insane. It's everything. Our equity could be worth—" She named a figure that would have impressed me if I didn't know how much of it was leveraged against debt, against my debt. We could pay off the house, send the kids to private school. I could finally breathe. She could breathe. After years of me holding the household together with duct tape and determination. After years of my income paying for her ambitions. She could finally breathe. "That's wonderful," I said, and I meant it, sort of, in the way you mean something when you're already several steps past it. Claire pulled out her phone, already texting someone. Drew, probably, sharing the excitement with the person who actually mattered. "Let's do something special for our anniversary," she said suddenly, looking up from her screen. "Something big. Something worthy of this moment." "Like what?" "I don't know. A party? Somewhere nice. We could invite everyone. Show them what we've built." What we've built. The royal we again. Her and Drew. Her and her ambitions. Her and everyone except me. "Sure," I said. "Let's have a party." And just like that, she handed me the weapon I needed. Planning the party became its own form of meditation. Every detail I arranged was another brick in the structure I was building. Every decision was strategic, intentional, designed to create the exact conditions I needed for maximum impact. I told Claire I'd handle everything. She was too busy with the startup, with the IPO preparations with Drew. I'd take care of the venue, the catering, the guest list. I'd make it perfect. She kissed my forehead, the kind of kiss you give a helpful child, and went back to her laptop. I booked the grand ballroom at the Riverside Hotel. Beautiful space. Excellent acoustics. More importantly, it had a built-in projection system. High-definition screens, professional-grade audio-visual equipment, the kind of setup you'd use for corporate presentations or other things. I hired the caterer Claire's mother had used for her own anniversary party. White glove service, expensive menu, the kind of food that makes people feel sophisticated while they're eating it. I hired a photographer who specialized in candid moments, the kind that captured genuine reactions. Surprise, shock, the exact moment someone realizes their world is changing. I invited everyone, our families, Claire's business contacts, our neighbors, the parents from Sophia and Marcus's school. I wanted a crowd, wanted witnesses, wanted enough people that the moment would be inescapable, undeniable, impossible to minimize or explain away. And I worked with David to prepare the final piece. "The timing has to be perfect," I told him in his office 3 days before the party, right after the trophy presentation, when everyone's laughing, when they're all convinced they know how this story ends. David had assembled the documents into a presentation. Clean slides, professional formatting, the kind of visual aid you'd see in a boardroom, not a ballroom. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "Not judgment, just verification." "I've been sure for a long time," I said. "I just didn't know what I was sure about." Once you do this, there's no walking it back. Your marriage was over 2 years ago. I'm just making it official. David nodded, handed me a thumb drive. Everything's on here, queued up and ready. The hotel's AV tech will handle the setup. You just need to give the signal. I held the small drive in my palm, feeling its weight, feeling the future compressed into a few gigabytes of data, of truth, of consequences finally arriving for people who'd grown accustomed to living without them. One more thing, I said. The notifications, the official letters to Claire's company, to her mother, to her old employer. I want them delivered tomorrow, morning, before anyone has time to prepare. You want them scared before the party? I want them aware. I want Claire walking into that ballroom knowing something's wrong but not knowing what. I want her off balance. That's cold. That's practical. David smiled his not pleasant smile. You've learned well. The letters went out on Thursday morning. I was at work when my phone started ringing. First call, Claire's mother. James, I don't understand. Summit Financial sent me a letter saying my mortgage terms are under review? What does that mean? I thought I was current on payments. I'm sure it's just a routine notice, Diane. I'll look into it. But why would they send this now? This is so stressful, James. You know I have the party this weekend. I can't deal with... I'll handle it. My voice was calm, professional, the voice of someone who handles things. Don't worry about the party. Everything will be fine. It was the last true thing I said to her for a while. Second call, Drew Morrison. James, hey man, weird question. Did you do something with the guarantees on our business loans? The guarantees you asked me to sign 2 years ago so you could get funding, those guarantees? Yeah, those. We got a letter from the bank saying they're reviewing the terms and our lawyers are saying something about, I don't know, something technical, and I figured you'd know what's going on since you're finance adjacent. Finance adjacent? Like I was a hobbyist, like my career was a cute sideline to Drew's real work. I'm sure it's routine, I said. Banks review loans all the time, probably nothing. But the timing's weird, right? With the IPO coming up, we can't have any instability in our financing. Claire's freaking out. Claire's there with you? I checked my watch, 10 a.m. on a Thursday, regular business hours when she should have been doing the school pickup she'd scheduled on our shared calendar. Yeah, we're at the office. This came in this morning, and we've been trying to figure out. I'm sure it'll be fine, I said. See you at the party. I hung up before he could respond. Third call, Claire. What did you do? Not hello, not can we talk, just accusation, just the assumption that I'd done something wrong. I'm in a meeting, I said. Can this wait? No, it can't wait. Drew said you told him the loan review was routine, but our lawyers are saying this could affect our entire capital structure. James, did you do something? I signed guarantees when you asked me to. That's what I did. If the bank is reviewing its risk profile, that's not really something I control. But why now? Why right before the IPO? Banks don't schedule their reviews around your business plans, Claire. I'm sure it's fine. Focus on the party. Isn't that what's important? Silence. I could hear her breathing. Could picture her in Drew's office, phone pressed to her ear, trying to figure out if I was lying. You've been weird lately, she said finally. Weird how? I don't know. Quiet. Like you're planning something. I'm always quiet. You've told me that's one of my best qualities. More silence. The party's in 2 days, she said. Can we get through the party and then we'll figure out whatever's going on with the loans? Sure, I said. Let's get through the party. Friday night, 24 hours before the anniversary party. The kids were at my parents' house for a sleepover. They were excited about the party, already planning their TikTok coverage strategy. Claire was in our bedroom, trying on dresses. I was in my office, running through the presentation one final time. The slides were perfect, clean, devastating in their simplicity. Slide 1, a photo of Claire and Drew at their company launch party, his arm around her waist. Both of them laughing at something that excluded me, even though I was the one who'd funded it. Slide 2, bank statements showing the initial investment of $200,000 from our joint savings. My savings, my years of careful financial planning liquidated for her dream. Slide 3, loan documents. Drew's startup borrowed an additional $500,000 against my personal guarantee. My credit, my risk, their reward. Slide 4, mortgage records showing I'd purchased Diane's debt through Summit Financial, including the payment history. She was 4 months behind before I bought the loan. Claire had never mentioned her mother was in financial trouble, had never asked me for help, had just let it happen while I remained conveniently ignorant. Slide 5, my ownership stake in Claire's former employer's parent company. Percent equity acquired gradually over 3 years, enough to have voting power on major decisions, like restructuring, like eliminations. Slide 6, the freeze orders, everything in legal language, all the loans under review, all the payments suspended pending investigation of terms, all the dominoes I'd carefully lined up, now ready to fall. Slide 7, a single line of text. You wanted proof that I'm patient? Here's your proof. My phone buzzed. Text from Claire. Can you zip this? Having trouble. I closed my laptop, walked to our bedroom. She was standing in front of the mirror in a green dress that matched her eyes, her hair already styled, her makeup partially done. This one? She asked, turning to show me. Or the black one? She looked beautiful. She always did. That was never the problem. Green, I said, moving behind her to work the zipper. It suits you. Our eyes met in the mirror. For just a second, I saw something, uncertainty, awareness, flicker across her face. Are you okay? She asked. Why wouldn't I be? You seem, I don't know, different. I finished with the zipper, rested my hands on her shoulders. We looked like a couple, like people who loved each other, like the mythology we'd been selling to everyone, including ourselves. Just thinking about the party, I said. Want to make sure it's perfect? It will be. She smiled at my reflection. You always make things perfect. I kissed the top of her head, breathed in her expensive shampoo, felt the specific ache of loving someone who stopped seeing you years ago. Yes, shh, I said. I do. Saturday arrived with the kind of weather that makes people believe in good omens. Clear skies, warm breeze, the sort of day that seems engineered for celebrations. I woke up early. Claire was still sleeping, her breathing soft and even. I watched her for a moment, this woman I'd spent 10 years with, and tried to feel something other than determination. I couldn't. I went downstairs, made coffee, checked my phone. David had sent a text at 6 a.m. Everything's ready. AV Tech will be on standby. Signal phrase is, let's see what we've built. Let's see what we've built. Claire's favorite phrase, the thing she'd said a dozen times while talking about her startup, her career, her carefully curated life. She'd meant it as celebration. I was using it as demolition. I responded, confirmed. The kids came home at noon bouncing with energy. Sophia had her tablet charged and her TikTok account ready. Marcus wanted to know if there would be cake. I assured him there would be cake. There would be everything Claire wanted. Everything except the ending she expected. We got dressed in our separate corners of the house. I put on the suit Claire had bought me 2 years ago for some work event of hers. Navy blue, expensive, the kind of suit that helps people take you seriously. I looked at myself in the mirror. Neat, professional, utterly forgettable, and felt satisfied. I dressed for the part I was about to play. Claire emerged from our bedroom looking like a vision from a magazine. The green dress hugged her perfectly. Her makeup was dramatic. Her smile was camera-ready. How do I look? She asked. Like someone celebrating 10 years of marriage, I said. She took it as a compliment. When we arrived at the Riverside Hotel at 5 p.m., the ballroom was transforming under the decorator's hands. White roses, string lights, tables arranged in a careful pattern that encouraged mingling but maintained sightlines to the stage. The projection screen loomed behind the podium, currently displaying our names in elegant script. Claire was everywhere at once, checking details, greeting early arrivals, making sure everything matched her vision. I stayed in the background, the faithful husband, making sure the bar was stocked and the photographer knew which moments to capture. Mr. Reynolds? The AV tech, a young guy with a badge that said Marcus, no relation, approached me near the stage. I've got your presentation loaded. Clean transitions. You want to run through it? No need. I know what's in it. Anything specific about timing? I'll give you the signal. When I say, let's see what we've built, that's your cue. But keep it quiet. I want the lights still on when the first slide appears. Then you can drop them for dramatic effect. Marcus, the tech guy, grinned. Sounds like it's going to be a good surprise. It's definitely going to be a surprise. Guests arrived in waves. Claire's parents, my parents, her sister, and her family. Drew and his wife Amanda, who looked uncomfortable in a way that suggested she knew more about her husband's late nights than she wanted to discuss. Friends from our neighborhood. People from Claire's startup. Faces I recognized but couldn't quite name, because Claire had invited her network while I'd invited our life. The kids immediately found the other children and formed a pack. Sophia already had her tablet out, filming establishing shots. Marcus found the dessert table and began planning his cake strategy. I worked the room like I'd been trained to work rooms, handshakes, pleasantries, making sure everyone had drinks and felt welcome. I was the host, the foundation, the person who made sure the party ran smoothly while everyone else had fun. James, my mother found me near the bar. This is wonderful. Claire must be so happy. She's thriving, I said, and meant it. 10 years, can you believe it? Seems like yesterday we were at your wedding. Time flies. She studied my face with that particular intensity mothers develop, the ability to see past the performance to the person underneath. Are you all right? She asked quietly. Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you seem calm, too calm, like you're waiting for something. I kissed her forehead. Everything's fine, Mom. Go enjoy the party. She didn't look convinced, but she went. By 7 p.m., the ballroom was full. Over 100 people, all dressed in their celebration clothes, all drinking Claire's champagne and eating my catered food, and believing they were here to witness a happy marriage. Claire found me near the stage. She was flushed with wine and excitement, her eyes bright. This is perfect, she said. James, thank you. I know I've been distracted with the startup, but this is exactly what I wanted. I know what you wanted, I said. She kissed me, quick, public. The kind of kiss that's more about being seen kissing than about actual affection. Drew and I have a surprise for you, she said. I like surprises. You're going to love this one. It's so us. So perfectly us. When? After dinner, during the speeches. She squeezed my hand. I can't wait to see your face. I can't wait either. Dinner was a blur of courses and conversation. I sat at the head table next to Claire, making appropriate responses to the toasts people kept offering. To love, to partnership, to 10 years and counting. Each toast was its own small irony, its own little knife I was learning to appreciate. Drew sat 3 seats down next to Amanda, but his attention kept drifting to Claire. Little glances, shared smiles, the kind of nonverbal communication that develops between people who spend more time together than with their actual spouses. I watched it all with anthropological interest, watched Claire laugh at his jokes, watched the way she angled her body toward him even when she was talking to someone else, watched 10 years of marriage evaporate in the space of stolen glances. After dessert, the cake Marcus had been planning for, now successfully consumed, the lights dimmed slightly. Claire stood up, clinked her glass. The room quieted. And that's when we arrived at the moment I described at the beginning. The trophy. The joke. Drew's too long hug, Marcus filming it all. My smile, practiced, perfect, completely hollow. I held the trophy, let them laugh, waited. Claire took the microphone again. But seriously, she said, and the room settled into attentive silence. I want to say something real. James, you have been my rock, my foundation, the person who makes everything else possible. And I know I haven't always shown you how much that means to me. So thank you for 10 years of patience, of support, of being exactly who you are. Being exactly who I am. She meant it as praise. I heard it as dismissal, as confirmation that she'd never looked deeper than the surface, never wondered if the patient husband might have his own depths, his own desires, his own limits. And I want you to know, Claire continued, and her voice got softer, more intimate, that everything I've built, everything Drew and I have built with the startup, all of it, it's for us, for our family, for our future. I couldn't have done any of it without you. She raised her glass. The room followed, 100 glasses catching the light, 100 people toasting a marriage they thought they understood. I stood up, raised my own glass, looked directly at Claire, then at Drew, then at my mother-in-law Diane, sitting 2 tables over with her 4th glass of wine. Thank you, I said into the microphone. That means everything, really. Your words, Claire, your recognition. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. I paused. Let the weight of it settle. You know, you're right about building something together and about partnership, about showing the people you love exactly who you are and what you're capable of. I turned toward the projection screen. So I thought, since we're celebrating 10 years, since we're surrounded by everyone we love, that we should all see what we've built, really see it, the whole structure. I looked at Marcus, the tech guy in the corner. Let's see what we've built. The screen behind me flickered. The script of our names disappeared. And the first slide appeared Claire and Drew at their company launch party, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. The room went silent. Not the quiet of attention, the silence of confusion, of people trying to understand what they're seeing. Claire turned to look at the screen. I watched her face, watched confusion become recognition, become something harder, colder. James, she said quietly, what are you doing? Showing everyone what we built, just like you wanted. The second slide appeared. Bank statements. $200,000 transferred from our joint account to Drew's startup. My signature authorizing it. Claire's business plan attached. I heard my mother gasp, heard chairs scraping as people turned to get a better view of the screen. That's our initial investment, I said conversationally, like I was giving a business presentation. From our emergency fund, our kids' education money, the savings I'd been building since before we got married, $200,000 to fund Claire's dream. James, stop this. Claire's voice was sharp now, afraid. Turn it off. But we haven't gotten to the best part yet. Third slide, loan documents. $500,000 against my personal guarantee. This is another $500,000 that Drew's company borrowed using my credit, my financial history, my reputation, all so they could expand, could hire more people, could chase growth. Drew was standing now. His face had gone pale. These are private documents. You can't. Actually, I can. They're my guarantees, my risk, my money on the line. Fourth slide. Diane's mortgage records. Claire made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. No, don't. Your mother was in financial trouble, I said, still in that same calm voice, still smiling, 4 months behind on her mortgage. Did you know that, Claire? Did she tell you she was about to lose her house? Diane was standing now, too. Her face had gone white. James, please. I bought her debt, I continued, through one of my companies, kept her afloat, kept her secrets because that's what I do. I handle things. I make sure everyone else's problems get solved while I stay conveniently invisible. The fifth slide. My ownership stake in Claire's former employer. And this is interesting. Turns out I own 15% of the company Claire used to work for, and enough to have voting power on major decisions, like restructuring. Like who stays and who goes when there's an acquisition. Claire's former boss was in the crowd. I saw him checking his phone, probably already texting his lawyers. James, Claire's voice was shaking now, actually shaking. Why are you doing this? What do you want? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd loved, this woman who'd turned me into furniture. I wanted you to see me, I said simply. I wanted everyone to see me. The foundation you've been standing on isn't bedrock, Claire. It's a construction, my construction. And I built it so carefully, so quietly, that none of you ever thought to ask what else I was capable of. The sixth slide appeared. The freeze orders, legal language, cold and final. As of this morning, all the loans associated with Drew's startup are under review, all payments suspended, all terms being renegotiated. I looked at Drew. Your IPO timeline just got very complicated. Drew sat down, just collapsed into his chair like someone had cut his strings. And your mother's mortgage? The bank has some questions about her payment history, about whether the property is still a sound investment. You can't do this, Claire said, but her voice had lost its edge, had become something smaller, more desperate. You can't destroy everything we've built. You keep saying we, I said, but you never mean me. You mean you and Drew. You mean your career, your startup, your future. I'm just the patient husband, the stable foundation, the person who exists to make your dreams possible. The seventh slide appeared, the single line of text. You wanted proof that I'm patient. Here's your proof. I let it hang there. Let everyone read it. Let the weight of it settle over the ballroom like snow. I've been patient for 10 years, I said. Patient while you forgot my birthday, Patient while you missed our kids' school events because you had meetings with Drew. Patient while you turned our marriage into a business arrangement where I provided the stability and you provided the ambition. Patient while you laughed at me, while you gave me this trophy. I lifted the absurd golden statue. Most patient husband. Like it's a joke. Like I'm a joke. The room was completely silent now. No one was drinking. No one was moving. Even the kids had stopped filming. But here's what none of you understood. Patient doesn't mean powerless. Quiet doesn't mean unaware. And being the foundation means I know exactly where the weight is distributed. Exactly which supports I can remove to make the whole structure unstable. I set down the trophy, looked at Claire. Her makeup was running. She'd been crying at some point, and I'd missed it, too focused on my presentation. I'm not trying to destroy you, I said. And this part was true, important, the thing I needed her to understand. I'm trying to be seen. I'm trying to make you understand that I'm not furniture. I'm not a supporting character in your story. I'm a person with resources, with power, with limits you reached about 2 years ago. The thing about dramatic revelations is that they create a kind of temporal distortion. The moment stretches and compresses simultaneously. You're acutely aware of every detail, every face in the crowd, every sound, every breath. But you're also watching it happen from somewhere outside yourself, like you're observing a stranger's life. I saw my father stand up, his face unreadable. Saw my mother reach for his hand. Saw Sophia lower her tablet, her 8-year-old face trying to process what she'd just witnessed. I saw Claire's sister cover her mouth. Saw Drew's wife Amanda stand up and walk out, not looking back. Smart woman. I saw Diane sobbing into her hands while Claire's father tried to comfort her. And I saw Claire, just standing there, staring at me like I was a stranger. Like the person she'd married had been replaced by someone else entirely. James, she said finally, her voice was small, broken. Please, can we talk about this privately? We've talked privately for 10 years. I thought it was time everyone else joined the conversation. You're humiliating me in front of everyone we know. I'm showing them the truth. That's different. It's the same thing. Maybe it was. Maybe revenge and truth are just 2 words for the same action, and the only difference is where you're standing when it happens. Drew stood up. His face had regained some color, replaced shock with anger. You sabotaged us. Everything we built, everything we worked for, you sabotaged it. I funded it, I corrected. My money, my credit, my risk. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped pretending I didn't notice what was happening. What was happening? Claire and I are business partners. Is that what you call it? The implication hung in the air. Drew's face went red. There's nothing, we never, it doesn't matter if you did or didn't, I said. What matters is that she chose you. Chose your company, your dreams, your late nights, your inside jokes. Chose to build something with you while I was home changing diapers and fixing the water heater. The sex is almost irrelevant compared to that. Claire flinched. There was no sex. James, there was never, I said it doesn't matter. It does matter. If you think I cheated on you, if that's what this is about, this isn't about cheating. This is about being invisible, about being convenient, about watching the person you love turn you into an appliance. I looked around the ballroom. At all these people who'd come to celebrate our marriage, who'd toasted to love and partnership and futures they assumed they understood. I'm sorry you all had to see this, I said. I know it's uncomfortable, but I've been uncomfortable out for 2 years and no one seemed to notice. So maybe now we're even. The party collapsed like a sandcastle at high tide. People left quickly, awkwardly, making excuses about babysitters and early mornings. No one knew what to say. No one wanted to be caught in the blast radius. My parents stayed, Claire's parents stayed. Drew left with his face set in a hard mask, already on his phone with his lawyers. The kids were confused, crying, being taken to a back room by my mother. Claire and I stood in the emptying ballroom surrounded by white roses and string lights and the ruins of our marriage. What happens now? She asked. Her voice was hollow, exhausted. That depends on you. You've frozen everything. My business, my mother's house, my old company. What do you want, James? What's the end game here? I thought about that, about what I wanted, about whether I'd even known when I started planning this. I want you to understand what you did, I said. I want you to feel what it's like to have your security threatened by someone you trusted. I want you to know that I saw everything and every dismissal, Every time you treated me like I was optional. Every moment you chose your ambitions over our family. So this is punishment. This is acknowledgement. You wanted me to be patient. I was patient. Now you get to see what happens when patience runs out. She sat down at one of the empty tables. This looked small suddenly, diminished. Nothing like the confident woman who'd stood at the microphone 30 minutes ago. I didn't mean to make you feel invisible, she said. I was just trying to build something, to be more than just a wife and mother, to matter. You always mattered, but I didn't, not to you. I was infrastructure. Useful, necessary, but not important. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. It sounded bitter even to my own ears. You gave me a trophy for being patient. You brought your business partner, the man you spend more time with than your own husband, to present it. You let our kids film it for social media. You turned my obsolescence into content. And I'm the one being unfair? She didn't answer. Just sat there, crying quietly, her perfect makeup now completely ruined. My mother appeared from the back room. James, the kids need you. I'll be right there. No, now. Sophia's having a panic attack. She doesn't understand what's happening. Guilt hit me like a physical blow. In all my planning, all my preparation, I'd thought about the impact on Claire, on Drew, on the systems I'd built. I hadn't really considered what this would do to my children, how it would feel to watch your parents' marriage explode in real time, to have it captured on your tablet, to have your world fundamentally reshaped in the space of 20 minutes. I looked at Claire. We're not done. I know. I left her there in the ballroom, walked toward the sound of my daughter crying. Sophia was hyperventilating in my mother's arms. Marcus was sitting in the corner, very quiet, very still. Too still for a 6-year-old. I knelt in front of Sophia. Sweetheart, look at me. Breathe with me. In, out, in, out. Is Mommy leaving? She managed between sobs. Are you getting divorced? I don't know, I said, because lying to children is its own form of cruelty. We have things we need to figure out. Did Mommy do something bad? It's complicated. Did you do something bad? Everyone looked so upset. Yes, I said. I did something that hurt people, including you. And I'm sorry for that. Why did you show those pictures? Why did you make everyone mad? I pulled her into a hug, felt her small body shaking against mine. Because sometimes adults are stupid. We let problems get too big and then we handle them badly. And I'm very, very sorry you had to see that. I don't want you to fight, Marcus said from his corner. His voice was tiny. I don't want anyone to be mad. Come here, buddy. He came. I held both my kids, these small humans I'd helped create, these innocent casualties of adult dysfunction. Whatever happens between me and your mom, I said quietly, we both love you. That doesn't change. You didn't cause this. You can't fix this. This is between grown-ups. But we have to live with it, Sophia said. Smart kid, too smart. Yes, you have to live with it. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We left separately. I took the kids to my parents' house. Claire went somewhere. Her mother's maybe. Or to Drew's, though. I doubted Amanda would welcome her. I spent the night on my parents' couch, listening to Sophia cry in the guest room, listening to Marcus ask my mother questions she didn't know how to answer. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from friends, from Claire's friends, from people who'd been at the party and had opinions about what they'd witnessed. One text stood out. From David. So, that happened. Call me Monday. We need to discuss next steps. Next steps, like this was a project. Like I hadn't just detonated my marriage in front of 100 witnesses, like there was a clean path forward from here. Around 2 a.m., Claire texted, we need to talk, really talk. Not in front of everyone, please. I stared at the message for a long time. Thought about all the times I'd wanted to really talk over the past 2 years. All the times I'd tried to bring up my feelings, my concerns, my growing sense of irrelevance, and been shut down with, can we talk about this later? Or, I'm too tired for this right now. Or, why do you always make everything so complicated? I typed back, Monday, after I drop the kids at school, our house. Okay, come alone, okay? I turned off my phone, lay in the darkness of my parents' living room, listened to my children sleep the uneasy sleep of kids whose world has shifted. And I tried to figure out if I felt better, if the revenge had been worth it, if making Claire finally see me was enough to justify the crater I'd created in our lives. The answer, lying there in the dark, was, I don't know. Sunday was a strange suspended animation. The kids wanted to go home. I told them we needed to give Mommy some space. They asked why. I had no good answers. My mother made pancakes. My father read the newspaper very intently, like international news was suddenly fascinating. Neither of them asked what I was planning to do next. Around noon, Drew called. "We need to talk," he said. No preamble, no pretense. So talk. Not on the phone, my office. 1 hour? Why? Because you've destroyed 2 years of work and I deserve an explanation. You got your explanation last night, public presentation, lots of visual aids. James, his voice cracked slightly. Please, 1 hour, man to man, no lawyers, just tell me why. I thought about refusing, about making him suffer the way I'd suffered, with no explanation, no acknowledgement, just the slow erosion of dignity. But I was tired, and maybe I needed to say it all again, in a room without witnesses, to someone who might actually listen. 1 hour, I said. I said. Drew's startup occupied a renovated warehouse in the Arts District, all exposed brick and industrial lighting, the kind of space that costs a fortune but looks deliberately unfinished. He met me in the lobby, looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes red from lack of sleep or crying or both. Thanks for coming, he said. You have 59 minutes. We went to his office, glass walls overlooking the main work floor, which was empty on a Sunday. He closed the door, offered me coffee. I declined. Amanda left me, he said. Just put it out there. Packed a bag this morning. Said she's known for months something was going on, and last night confirmed it. Said she's done being married to someone who's in love with his business partner. Are you? I asked. In love with Claire? He looked at me, looked away. I don't know, maybe, probably. Does it matter? That's what Claire said, that it didn't matter, but I think it does. We didn't. He ran his hands through his hair. Fuck, this is such a mess. You knew I existed. You knew Claire was married. You knew I'd personally guaranteed $500,000 of your company's debt. And you kept her late, kept touching her, kept building something with her while I was home with our kids. So, yeah, it's a mess. But it's your mess as much as mine. I didn't mean to fall in love with my wife, destroy my marriage, ignore boundaries. Which part didn't you mean to do? He slumped in his chair, looked defeated. All of it, none of it. I don't know. The company was everything, building something from nothing. It's intoxicating. And Claire understood that. She got it in a way Amanda never did. In a way he stopped. In a way I never did, I finished. Because I was busy being stable, being the foundation, being convenient. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Silence, long and uncomfortable. What happens now? Drew asked. To the company, the loans? Are you actually going to call them, force us into bankruptcy? I leaned back in my chair, considered him. This man who'd taken my wife's emotional energy, my money, my trust, and built something that excluded me. That depends, I said. On what? On whether you can answer one question honestly. What question? Did you know Claire was unhappy in our marriage? Did she tell you things about me, about our life, that made you think I was the problem? Drew was quiet for a long time, long enough that I knew the answer before he spoke. Yes, he said finally. She talked about you, about feeling trapped, about having all these dreams and being stuck with someone who just wanted to play it safe, about being married to a good man who didn't understand her ambitions. A good man? That's what she called me? She meant it as a compliment. Did she? It wasn't a question. James, she loved you. Loves you. But she wanted more. Wanted different. And I gave her that. The company, the excitement. The feeling that she was building something important while I was building our actual life. Yes. The honesty of it was almost refreshing. No deflection, no excuses, just admission. Here's what's going to happen, I said. The loans stay frozen for 30 days. During that time, you're going to get your finances in order, find new investors, refinance the debt I guaranteed, remove my name from everything. The IPO gets delayed or doesn't happen. That's not my problem anymore. And you wanted to build something with Claire? Fine, build it without my support. And if we can't find new funding in 30 days, Then you're in default, and I'll have options. But I'm hoping you're as smart as Claire thinks you are. Hoping you can figure it out. That's actually fair. I'm not interested in fair. I'm interested in being done. With you. With your company. With the entire situation. Drew nodded slowly. What about Claire? What happens with you two? That's between me and my wife. For what it's worth, and I know it's not worth much. I'm sorry, I didn't think about what I was taking from you. Didn't think about the cost. That's the problem with ambitious people, I said. You never think about the cost until the bill arrives. I stood up and headed for the door. James? Drew called after me. What? You're not who I thought you were. Claire described you as, well, clearly she didn't know you at all. No, I said. She didn't. I went home Sunday evening. The house felt different, empty in a way that had nothing to do with the kids being at my parents' place. Claire's car wasn't there. She was honoring my request to stay away until Monday, or maybe she just didn't want to face me. I walked through our house like I was visiting a museum of my own life. The photos on the walls, our wedding, the kids' babies, family vacations that looked happier than they felt. The furniture we'd chosen together. The kitchen where I'd cooked 1,000 meals while Claire worked late. The bedroom where we'd stopped touching each other years ago but kept sharing space out of habit or hope or inertia. I sat in my office, opened my laptop, looked at the presentation that had detonated my marriage. Part of me, a large part, felt sick about what I'd done, about the public nature of it, about my kids seeing it, about the humiliation I'd inflicted on Claire, on her mother, on everyone who'd come to celebrate with us. But another part, the part that had been suffocating for 2 years, felt lighter, felt seen, felt like maybe for the first time in a long time I'd told the truth. Whether that truth was worth the cost, I still didn't know. Monday morning, I dropped the kids at school. Sophia was quiet, withdrawn. Marcus kept asking when they could go home. I promised them soon. Promised them we'd figure things out. Made promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Claire was waiting at the house when I returned. Sitting in her car in the driveway, alone, like I'd asked. We went inside, made coffee through muscle memory. Sat at the kitchen table where we would had 1,000 unremarkable conversations about groceries and schedules and things that didn't matter. I talked to a lawyer. Claire said, no preamble. This morning, wanted to understand my options. Okay, he said what you did, the loans, the freeze orders, the public disclosure, none of it was illegal. Ruthless, he said, but legal. David's good at his job. David knew about this. How long have you been planning it? About 18 months. She absorbed that. 18 months? You've been planning to destroy me for 18 months. I've been planning to be seen for 18 months. The destruction was optional. Could have been avoided if you'd... I stopped. If I'd what? Paid more attention to you? Made you feel special? What did you want, James? What should I have done differently? Seen me. My voice broke slightly. Just seen me as a person. Not as the patient husband or the stable foundation or the guy who handles things. As someone with needs, with limits, with the capacity to be hurt. Claire's eyes were wet. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know, that's almost worse. If you'd meant to, at least I'd matter enough to target, but you didn't mean to. You just forgot I was there? That's not true. Then tell me one thing about my life in the last year that doesn't involve you or the kids. One project I'm working on, one book I read, one dream I have, one thing. Silence. You can't, I said. Because you stopped asking, stopped caring. I became furniture in my own life. I was building something. So was I. My voice rose. I was building our kids' childhood, our home, our stability, while you were building a startup with another man, while you were falling in love with someone else even if you never slept with him, while you were replacing me with Drew in every way that matters. I didn't replace you. You gave him everything. Your time, your energy, your dreams, your inside jokes, your late nights. Everything except the legal paperwork that says you're married. And you kept me around for what? To fund it? To watch the kids? To be the patient husband who never complains? She was crying openly now. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if you can. Do you want a divorce? Is that what this is? I thought about it, really thought about it. About what I wanted beyond revenge, beyond recognition, beyond the satisfaction of making her finally understand. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me does. Part of me wants to be done. to find someone who actually sees me, who chooses me. Not because I'm useful or stable or patient, but because I'm me. And the other part? The other part remembers when we were good, when you actually wanted me, not just what I could provide, when we were partners, not just co-parents and roommates. Can we get back to that? Do you want to? She didn't answer immediately, and in that hesitation, I heard my answer. You don't know, I said. You don't know if you want to save this marriage or if you just want to save your business, your mother's house, your reputation, but you don't know if you want me. That's not fair. It's true. More silence, heavy, final. What happens to my mother's mortgage? Claire asked. Practical questions, easier than emotional ones. The review is real, but if she can start making payments again, if she can show good faith, I'll make sure she keeps the house. And my old company? I have no intention of using my leverage there unless I need to. Your job, if you still want it, is probably safe. And Drew's startup? That's between you and Drew. I've given him 30 days to refinance my guarantees. After that, I'm done with it. The IPO? Not my problem. Claire slumped in her chair. You've thought of everything. I had 18 months. What do you want from me, James? What's the end game here? I stood up, carried my empty coffee cup to the sink, looked out the window at our yard, our street, our carefully constructed suburban life. I want you to decide, I said, whether you want this marriage, actually want it. Not because it's convenient, or because divorce is hard, or because you're worried about what people will think, but because you want to be married to me. Specifically me, not the patient husband, not the stable foundation. How long do I have? As long as you need. I'm not rushing you. Where will you stay? Here. This is my house too. You can stay with your mother, or Drew, or get your own place, but I'm not leaving. She stood up, gathered her purse, moved toward the door, stopped. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I didn't know how much I was hurting you, how invisible I'd made you feel. That doesn't excuse it. But I didn't know. I know it, I said. Why, that's the whole problem. You didn't know because you didn't look. She left. I heard her car start, heard her drive away, and I sat in my kitchen, in my empty house, and tried to figure out what came next. The next few weeks were strange. We existed in a kind of liminal space, not together, not apart, not quite divorced, but no longer married in any meaningful sense. Claire stayed with her mother. I stayed in our house. The kids split time between us, confused but adapting the way kids do. Sophia started seeing a therapist. Marcus started having nightmares. We'd broken something in them, Claire and I, and we'd spend years trying to repair it. Drew managed to refinance the loans, found investors who didn't require my personal guarantee. The IPO got delayed by 6 months, but it would probably still happen. He sent me a formal letter releasing me from all obligations, professional, cold, final. Claire started going to therapy too, individual sessions at first. Then she asked if I'd be willing to do couples counseling. I don't know if it will help, she said over the phone, but I want to try, if you're willing. Why? Because I love you. I know you might not believe that anymore, but I do, and I don't want to lose you without at least trying to understand what happened. You know what happened. I know what you showed me. The financial stuff, the revenge. But I don't know why you felt you had to do it that way, why you couldn't just talk to me. I tried to talk to you for 2 years. You were always too busy or too tired or too focused on Drew and the startup. You trained me not to bother you with my feelings. Then let's untrain that. Let's learn how to talk to each other again. I agreed to therapy, not because I thought it would save us, but because I owed it to our kids to at least try, to show them that adults can face hard things, can sit in discomfort, can attempt repair even when it seems futile. Our therapist, Dr. Mariana Okonkwo, was a calm, thoughtful woman in her 50s who didn't let us hide behind our defenses. The first session was mostly her asking questions, getting the landscape of our relationship, hearing both sides. Claire talked about feeling stifled, about marrying young and spending her 20s having babies while her friends were building careers, about the startup being her chance to finally build something of her own, about not realizing how much space she was taking up in our marriage. I talked about feeling erased, about being reduced to function, about watching Claire fall in love with her business partner while I changed diapers and paid bills, about the anniversary party being the final humiliation in a series of small humiliations I'd been swallowing for years. Dr. Okonkwo listened, made notes, then said something that surprised both of us. "You're both right, and you're both wrong. Claire, you absolutely failed to see your husband's needs. You treated him as infrastructure. That's real harm. But James, you built a secret financial empire and detonated your marriage publicly rather than having honest conversations. That's also real harm." "I tried to have conversations," I said. "Did you? Or did you make oblique comments and hope Claire would pick up on your unhappiness without you having to be vulnerable?" I didn't have a good answer for that. "Here's what I see," Dr. Okonkwo continued. "Two people who loved each other, who built a life together, who had children together, and who then slowly, painfully, stopped being partners. Claire pursued her ambitions without checking if James was on board. And James built his resentment and his revenge plan without giving Claire a chance to change course. She wouldn't have changed," I said. "She would have told me I was being insecure, that I should be happy for her success." "Is that true?" Dr. Okonkwo asked Claire. Claire was quiet. Then, "Probably. Yes, if James had told me 2 years ago that he felt invisible, I probably would have dismissed it. I would have made it about that him being insecure about Drew, about not being supportive of my career and why. Because admitting he was right would have meant admitting I was failing, as a wife, as a partner, and I didn't want to face that." It was the most honest thing she'd said to me in years. Therapy became a weekly ritual. We sat in Dr. Okonkwo's office and excavated our marriage, looked at all the places we'd failed each other, all the unspoken needs and unmet expectations and slow accumulations of resentment. It was excruciating, like surgery without anesthesia, but it was also necessary. Week 3, Dr. Okonkwo asked, "Do you still love each other?" Claire answered first, "Yes, I do. I love James. I forgot how to show it. Forgot that love is a practice, not just a feeling." I took longer to answer. "I don't know. I love who Claire was, who we were together, but I don't know if I love who we became, who she became, who I became in response to her." "That's honest," Dr. Okonkwo said. "Can you imagine a version of your marriage where you do love each other again, where you're both different people than you've been for the past 2 years?" "Maybe," I said, "but it would require Claire to actually change, to prioritize our marriage, to see me." "I'm trying," Claire said. "I'm here. I'm in therapy. I've stepped back from the startup because I forced you to," I interrupted. "Because I blew up your funding, not because you chose to." "Is that true?" Dr. Okonkwo asked Claire. Claire's face crumpled. "Yes. If James hadn't done what he did, I'd still be working 18-hour days, still putting the company first, still making Drew more important than my husband. Why? Because the startup made me feel valuable, important, like I was more than just a wife and mother, and I was addicted to that feeling." "And James didn't make you feel valuable?" "He did, but it was quiet, stable, not exciting, and I took it for granted." Around week 5, something shifted. We were talking about the anniversary party, about my decision to reveal everything publicly, when Claire said something that surprised me. "I get it now. Why you did it that way. Do you? You needed witnesses, needed people to see what was happening because I wouldn't. Because if you'd just told me privately, I would have minimized it, made it about you being sensitive. But putting it all out there like that, making it undeniable, that was the only way to force me to actually look. Yes, it was cruel. Yes, but it was also honest. More honest than our marriage had been in years." I thought about that, about whether public humiliation could be honest, whether revenge could contain truth. "I'm not proud of it," I said, "of hurting you like that, of our kids seeing it, but I'm also not sorry, because you finally saw me, and I'd rather be seen as cruel than invisible." Claire reached across the space between our chairs, took my hand. First time she'd touched me in weeks. "I see you now," she said, "and I'm so sorry it took me this long. We didn't get back together right away. We took it slow, learned how to date each other again, how to have conversations that weren't about logistics or kids or household management." Claire cut her hours at the startup, made Drew hire a COO to handle the day-to-day operations, started coming to Sophia's soccer games, started asking me about my work, my projects, my life beyond being her support system. I went to my own individual therapy, worked on my anger, on my tendency to go silent instead of speaking up, on the ways I'd been complicit in my own invisibility by never demanding to be seen. The kids adjusted slowly. They split time between houses at first, then gradually we moved toward me coming back home. Not because everything was fixed, but because we were all trying. 6 months after the anniversary party, Claire and I sat in Dr. Okonkwo's office for what would be our last session. "So," Dr. Okonkwo said, "where are you now?" Claire answered first. "We're better, not perfect, but better. I'm learning how to be a wife again, not just a CEO. Learning that partnership means actually partnering." "And you?" Dr. Okonkwo asked me. "I'm learning how to be seen, how to ask for what I need instead of keeping score and building resentment, how to trust that Claire actually means it this time." "Do you trust her?" "I'm getting there. And the startup, Drew and I are cordial, professional. His company's doing fine without my money. And Claire has boundaries now, real ones. 9 to 5 schedule most days, home for dinner, weekends protected." "Do you miss it?" Dr. Okonkwo asked Claire. "The intensity? The 18-hour days?" "Sometimes," Claire admitted. "But I miss my family more, miss my husband, miss being a person who has a life outside of work." "James, do you believe her?" "I'm watching her prove it, every day. And so far, she's showing up. So yeah, I believe her." We renewed our vows on our 11th anniversary, small ceremony. Just immediate family, no trophies, no surprises, no public displays. Just Claire and me, standing in front of people who loved us, promising to actually try this time, to see each other, to choose each other, to remember that patience isn't the same as being a doormat, that stability doesn't mean invisible. Sophia and Marcus stood with us, old enough now to understand what had happened, young enough to still believe that we could fix it. "Do you take this woman," the officiant asked, "to be your wife, to honor, to cherish, to partner with in all things?" I looked at Claire at this woman I'd loved and resented and exposed and tried to forgive. "I do," I said, again, better this time. "Do you take this man to be your husband, to see, to value, to choose every day?" Claire's voice was steady, clear. "I do, and I will." It's been 3 years since the anniversary party, since I stood in that ballroom and showed everyone what patience looks like when it runs out. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, the public nature of it, the cruelty, the nuclear option instead of the mature conversation. The answer is complicated. I regret hurting my kids. That's unambiguous. Sophia's in therapy. Marcus still has nightmares sometimes. They carry the scars of watching their parents' marriage detonate in real time. That's on me. On Claire too, but on me for choosing that method. But do I regret finally being seen? Making Claire understand what she'd done? Refusing to stay invisible? No, I don't. Sometimes you have to break something to force people to acknowledge it's been broken. Sometimes quiet suffering just leads to more suffering. Sometimes the only way to save something is to nearly destroy it. Our marriage now looks nothing like it did before. We have rules, boundaries, weekly check-ins where we actually talk about our feelings, our needs, our fears. It's uncomfortable, deliberate, a constant practice. Claire's startup did go public. The IPO happened 18 months after the anniversary party. She made money, not as much as she'd hoped, but enough to pay off the house, to set up college funds for the kids, to build something she's proud of. But she's not at the office 18 hours a day anymore. She's present, home, asking about my day and actually listening to the answer, going to soccer games and parent-teacher conferences and family dinners. Drew and Amanda divorced. He's dating someone new now, someone in tech, someone who understands 18-hour days and the intoxication of building something from nothing. I hope it works out for him. I genuinely do. My relationship with my mother-in-law is forever changed. She paid off her mortgage. I made sure of that once she got current on payments. But she looks at me differently now, like I'm dangerous, like the quiet son-in-law she thought she knew was a stranger all along. Maybe she's right. Last week, Sophia asked me something while we were driving to school. "Dad, do you think you and Mom would still be together if you hadn't done that at the party?" I thought about lying, about giving her the comforting answer. But we'd made a family rule after everything happened. Honesty, even when it hurts. "No," I said, "I don't think we would. I think we would have kept limping along until one of us had the courage to leave. And I'm not sure either of us would have found that courage. So you're glad you did it? I'm glad we're still together. I'm sad about how we got here. Both things can be true. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I get that. I'm still mad at you for doing it in front of everyone, for making me film it. But I'm glad you're happy now. I'm sorry you had to see that. I know, but I don't know, I learned something from it. What's that? That you can love someone and still be angry at them. That you can hurt someone and still try to fix it. That nothing's simple, not even families. My 8-year-old daughter, now 11, saying things that took me 40 years to learn. Yeah, when I said, that's exactly right. Claire and I still have hard days. Days when I remember the humiliation and the erasure and the years of feeling invisible. Days when she remembers the public exposure and the financial manipulation and the revenge dressed up as revelation. But we also have good days. Days when we remember why we fell in love. When we choose each other actively, deliberately, with full awareness of what that choice means. We're building something new. Not a perfect marriage, those don't exist, but an honest one. A marriage where both people are seen, where patience isn't weaponized or taken for granted, where stability is valued but not exploited. It's harder than our first marriage and requires more effort, or more vulnerability, more willingness to be uncomfortable. But it's also more real. Someone asked me recently what I learned from all of it. From the years of quiet suffering, from the planning and the revenge and the aftermath. I learned that patience is a virtue until it becomes self-erasure. That being the foundation is honorable until you disappear into it. That sometimes the person who loves you most can also be the person who hurts you worst. Not through malice, but through thoughtlessness. I learned that quiet people aren't necessarily weak people. That stability isn't the same as stagnation. That infrastructure has power when it decides to stop supporting the weight. I learned that revenge tastes like ash in the moment and regret in the aftermath. But sometimes you need to burn something down to see what's actually there. And I learned that forgiveness is possible. Even after public humiliation, even after betrayal, even after you've shown someone exactly how much power you have over their life. But forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's not going back to who you were before. It's building something new on top of the rubble. It's choosing to stay when you finally actually have the option to leave. We had a small gathering last month, just close friends and family, an ordinary Saturday evening. Nothing dramatic, no surprises. We were on our back patio. Claire was laughing at something her sister said. Marcus was showing my father's latest Lego creation. Sophia was helping my mother with dessert, and I stood there, watching my family, thinking about that night 3 years ago, about the trophy, about the moment I decided I was done being invisible. Claire caught my eye across the patio, smiled, walked over. What are you thinking about? She asked. The anniversary party? Which one? We've had 2 now. The first one, the disaster. She was quiet for a moment, then, me too. Sometimes I can't believe we survived it. Me either. But we did. We did. She took my hand, squeezed. Thank you. For what? For not leaving. For giving us another chance. For showing me what I was losing before it was too late. You're welcome, and I'm sorry for how I did it. I know, me too. For making it necessary. We stood there, holding hands on our patio, surrounded by the family we'd nearly destroyed and the life we'd almost lost. And I thought about what Drew had said 3 years ago. You're not who I thought you were. He was right, I wasn't. I was patient. Until I wasn't. I was stable. Until I decided to be dangerous. I was the foundation. Until I showed everyone exactly what happens when foundations shift. And now I'm just a man trying to build something honest with a woman who finally learned to see me. Trying to raise kids who understand that love is complicated and forgiveness is possible, and nothing worth having is simple. It's not the marriage we started with. It's not the life we planned, but it's ours, built on ruins, constructed from honesty, held together by choice, and every day we choose to stay. Every day we choose to build. Every day we choose to see each other. That's what we built. Not a perfect life, not an easy marriage, but a real one. And it's enough. Sometimes the longest smile is the one that comes after you finally stop pretending everything is fine. Sometimes patience isn't about enduring, it's about preparing. And sometimes the only way to be seen is to show everyone exactly what they've been missing. I'm James. I was the patient husband until I wasn't. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever been the foundation everyone else stood on without noticing, I hope you understand why I did what I did. Not because it was right, but because I was tired of being wrong about my own worth. Because I finally learned that being patient doesn't mean being powerless. It just means knowing exactly when to stop waiting.